Final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Mr. NPerry from Tennessee State University, and he's talking about the computer, the digital divide, and how individuals might have access to some of the things that are going on by using the computer. Mr. Perry, let's pick up where we left off, and to have you to give our audience what you might consider to be some practical information in reference to once they are on the computer and have time and et cetera, how it can be helpful to them.
Well, most everyone uses a computer at their job now. So at my work at Tennessee State University, I'm in institutional research, and we collect aggregate data and put them in reports for the federal government, the state government, and local entities. So we take data, put them in reports, transfer those reports into books, magazines, and websites. So a little bit of all of those are enrolled in, wrapped up into the things I do at work. And once you start working on a little bit of it, everybody else needs some kind of assistance in starting their own business or their own personal website, anything that they have seen someone else do. It becomes a part of them, and they want to do some of that stuff too. So we see things like where Google, they have a where they have a search engine, and that I heard a report where they were 90 million people that use Google. And of that 90 million people, 60% of them were on Google every day. Every day they were searching for something. And then you had another report that said 40% of them were on there at least once a week. So you see quite a few people in the United States that use a computer daily. 90 million is quite a bit.
Quite a number, it really is.
And then you have other things like social networks like the Facebook. You had the movie that was out that did demonstrate how he got started and things that, but there are lots of dangers. For instance, if a young kid gets on there and they put out all the information about themselves, any predator would be able to see all that information and maybe possibly try to do some damage to that young child. So as parents and grandparents, we got to make sure that we are aware of things that are going on the internet. Maybe not be as involved in them because that's not what we do. But if you have a young child, especially if they're in those developing ages, we got to make sure that we understand what they're doing and they're not putting information about our families on there, where we go to school, what time you can pick me up, and all this kind of things out there. So because it's a danger. There's people out there looking for things that they can take advantage of.
You know, quite recently I saw in the newspaper something about privacy, you know, and that one website had decided to go offline for a long time in order. What is that all about?
Well, there's a Privacy Act that's going on where the government wants to, and the entertainment industry wants to make sure that they get paid for the things that they put out. Then there's others that the consumers of the entertainment industry, they want to make sure that they can share their information with other people. And the internet, I think, was designed so that you can share share information back and forth to your friends. Where it gets out of line is that you want to share it with too many friends. And then it cuts out the entertainment business from getting their fair share of their money.
There's a cost that's associated with it.
So if you're cutting into their business and then feeding their money and feeding their families, then of course, then they're going to want to stop that from happening. And so that's where the fight is going back and forth. I think that they had something where there's a group on the internet, the hackers, that actually want to shut down sites by everybody log on at the same time, and then it stops that site from working for a day or so. So we see a lot of that going back and forth. If you do this, I'm going to do this. It's almost like a American Revolution all over again, except it's done on digital.
And so it's a real problem in terms of what they call privacy and
Yes.
and who controls the internet in a real sense. Is that
Right. And the privacy, when we talk about privacy, there's things that you put online. Is it secure once it leaves my site? A lot of times people don't look for it on a website. Maybe they put in their information, their credit card information in it, and they see in the corner there's a little lock that tells you that this is a secure site. So when I put my information into that site, then it allows me to feel a little safer about putting my information online.
because of the security they claim?
Because they say it's a secure site. So the Privacy Act, once your information goes out there, you can't really grab it and bring it back. It's just out there. So we see sometimes those companies that do collect your information, whether it's your email, your address, and phone numbers, and your name, they can turn around and use that database to sell to other people if it's enclosed in, you know, their fine print. So it's a lot of times we have to look at that fine print, say, are you going to use this information anywhere else? Sometimes they do say that we are going to use this somewhere else, and you have that option of saying, I don't want to buy anything here or put my information inside of here. So you have to make sure that you're aware of when you putting your personal information into a website, that it's not something that is going to be used if you don't want it to be used. You have to make sure it's something that's not going to be used, so that read the fine print is what I'm saying.
Who has access to that
Right.
information is important. There might be somebody that you would prefer not to have
Right.
access to the information. And as a matter of fact, I think one of the things that I heard quite recently is that many people that are involved in this Facebook social media thing often do things and they write up and they brag about it, and then the detectives are now sitting around
Right.
searching those Facebook items and et cetera, and arresting people in a real
Exactly.
sense because of that.
And because you have bonded with people online, saying these are my friends, these are my family members, then you're telling everybody everything about you. This is what I do. This is who I hang around. And sometimes it's gotten to where people would say, I'm going out of town this weekend. I'm going to have a good time. So you just told everybody
in the world
that I'm going out of town and my house is empty for the weekend, and burglars maybe come in and look and see what's going on. So you got to be careful about what you post. You don't want to be too personal. Do you have to post things every day? You don't have to.
Some people evidently believe that every time they get on the computer,
Right.
they have to post something, and some of the things that are posted ought not to be posted.
Exactly. You have to be careful. I've heard people are fired because they talked about their job on the internet. I've heard that people gotten in trouble because they're talking to a certain individual from the opposite